Now on CoastTV News.
Boardwalk building battle. After plans received initial approval earlier this month, the next step for the Belhaven Hotel project in Rehoboth Beach takes place today.
Limiting local rule.
It's just a little unreasonable what Sussex County has done.
That's the opinion of the sponsor of the bill that limits local Delaware government's ability to regulate marijuana businesses. How close to becoming law is this legislation?
Addressing parking accessibility. We look at the ordinance dealing with that issue in Lewis.
We're going from extremely hot to just hot today with a heat advisory, and it feels like temperatures in the triple digits. A cooler Friday and then a warmer weekend with some showers and storms. Details coming up.
This is CoastTV News Today.
And it is Thursday, June 26, 2025. Good morning, I'm Matt Pensick.
And good morning, I'm Elisa Weber. Thank you for joining us for our 5 o'clock hour.
Days in June dwindling down.
They are.
Next week is the Independence Day holiday weekend.
Bob and I yesterday, we realized that because he had the calendar up and I was like, already?
Yeah.
I cannot believe that summer is going a little too quickly.
Yes,
in
for my
opinion.
liking, yes.
Yes, but we have to talk about the heat. That's been the story the past couple of days.
It's been the story all week.
But it's going to cool down a little bit today. Just a little
That's what I heard Bob say, although I
Not
think
by much.
it's a liberal definition, Bob, of the
Yes.
word cool.
Exactly, and good morning, Elisa and Matt. Different degrees of hot. We go from extremely hot to just hot and muggy today, and it's another mild start with temperatures in the 70s and 80 in Lewis and Rehoboth right now. Millsboro 76, still very muggy with dew points in the 70s. That's not going to change, and still light winds. And we have a heat advisory, not an extreme heat warning, away from the coast for Sussex County. That also includes Salisbury back through Ocean Pines. This goes through this evening, and then for the eastern shore as well. As it's going to be another hot day, but not that extreme heat, as we're looking at mainly clear skies right now, and that heat dome is beginning to weaken and kind of shrink and collapse from the north as the front is dropping in, and then that will kick off some showers and storms into the afternoon as we quickly warm up through the 80s. I think we're into the low 90s as we go into the noon hour, a little cooler at the beaches, and then some showers and storms flaring up into the afternoon. That cools us off, maybe some heavy rain and gusty winds with some of these storms, but at least a little bit of relief. But before the storms, maybe as hot as 109 some inland areas. So make sure you prepare for the heat, stay hydrated today. But storms will start to increase, and we'll start to see a bigger cool down into Friday, warming up into the weekend, and a few more storms. I'll have much more on your forecast coming up a little bit later in the newscast.
All right, looking forward to that. Thank you, Bob. Our top story this hour, the next step in the construction of a hotel right on the boardwalk in Rehoboth Beach. This afternoon, a public hearing is taking place for the Belhaven project. Now, it was earlier this month, the Planning Commission voted 5-3 to move the hotel forward to the stage. Plans for the Belhaven call for 105 rooms, 78 garage spaces, and 29 parking lot spaces. Today's public hearing takes place at 1:30 at Rehoboth Beach's City Hall.
And that's not the only project that will be at that hearing in Rehoboth Beach. There's also a review of a subdivision off of Coastal Highway. It's called Oceanside Reserve. Here's the area developers are looking at. It is in the Rehoboth Beach Plaza in the Forgotten Mill. If you've ever driven in that area, you know there are several empty storefronts. The subdivision calls for a nearly 8-acre lot turned into a community of 31 single-family lots. And we will have more on both of those projects later on CoastTV News Today.
In a last-minute push on Delaware marijuana zoning legislation, the House has passed Senate Bill 75. What this does, it limits the restrictions that counties can impose on marijuana businesses. Also makes it easier for medical dispensaries to sell recreationally.
People opposing the bill have called it government overreach. Some lawmakers, like Republican Representative Brian Shoup, say this is majority party overreach, but Democratic Senator Trey Party says Sussex County essentially made it illegal to open a shop, so the state needs to intervene.
The one-party rule, no matter what party it is, I think you get away from listening to local voices just by the nature of that happening.
You know, once the recreational cannabis stores are open, you're going to have less than 40 across the entire state. So it's just a little unreasonable what Sussex County has done, and again, they've made it illegal.
Senate Bill 75 now heads to Governor Meyer's desk for approval.
A chance to save a life. Ocean View Police and Delaware's Division of Substance Abuse and Mental Health are hosting a free Narcan training event today. Organizers say participants will learn how to use Narcan. That's the medication that reverses opioid overdoses. And everyone who completes the short training could receive a free opioid rescue kit. That also includes free pizza and refreshments. It's happening from noon to 1 p.m. This is at the Ocean View Police Department.
A young car theft suspect is believed to have led police on one of two multi-county car chases out of Dover on Friday. Delaware State Police say a 10-year-old was behind the wheel of one pursuit through Kent and Sussex counties. The boy, a 13-year-old girl, and 32-year-old Jonathan Bennett were eventually taken into custody. Bennett is being held on an $11,000 bond. The children have been released back to their guardians.
Happening today in Bethany Beach, motorized ways and moving around the town. The Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Committee specifically looking at e-bikes and scooters. They're getting an update from task teams. There's also strategies for shared paths for bikes and pedestrians. This is scheduled for 10 a.m.
Also happening today, Lewis City leaders are reviewing a new way to manage residential parking. City Council will discuss a pilot program that would reserve parking spaces for people with mobility challenges. The draft plan outlines a mobility-based system, allowing residents to apply for designated spaces aimed at improving accessibility. Today's council meeting will take place at 10 a.m.
New this morning, an all-way stop is coming to a Seaford intersection. The intersection is right here on your screen. This is Bridgeville Highway and Virginia Avenue and Woodland Mills Drive. DelDOT says the change takes effect June 30th. The change follows recent sidewalk, curb, and drainage updates.
We are now taking a live look at Washington, D.C. President Trump is back at the White House this morning with news that the U.S. will meet with Iran next week.
Yeah, the president's pushing back on questions about the success of the strike of Iranian nuclear facilities, with the CIA backing the claim that Iran's program was severely damaged.
NBC's Alice Barr shows us how today lawmakers will have an opportunity to ask questions at a briefing from White House officials.
President Trump back in Washington after the NATO summit, looking to extend a diplomatic win with the Israel-Iran ceasefire into talks with Iran.
We're going to talk to them next week with Iran. We may sign an agreement. I don't know.
The president downplaying the necessity of signing a deal, insisting U.S. airstrikes on Iranian nuclear sites already accomplish the goal of preventing Iran from developing a nuclear weapon.
I said Iran will not have nuclear. Well, we blew it up. It's blown up to kingdom come.
He's pushing back forcefully on a preliminary assessment by the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency estimating Iran's nuclear program was delayed by a matter of months.
They presented a report that wasn't finished.
Yes.
They didn't see it. All they can do is take a guess.
Defense Secretary Hegseth said the agency had low confidence in its initial assessment. President Trump citing Israeli intelligence that the strikes set Iran's nuclear capabilities back by many years and rendered the critical underground Fordo site inoperable. Iran also acknowledging its nuclear installations were badly damaged. And the CIA director now says credible intelligence indicates Iran's nuclear program was severely damaged and would take years to rebuild. Two sources say he is among the top Trump officials set to brief senators today who have been pressing for answers.
Do we know whether the uranium was there? Do we know whether the centrifuges were there? What is the state of those facilities?
House members due to be briefed tomorrow. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
And we're just getting started in this hour of CoastTV News today.
Yeah, coming up, Independence Day across Delmarva. We have some of the places to celebrate the holiday, including where to see these fireworks.
Also, energy use is extremely important during extreme heat. We'll show you how the weather has exacerbated repair services.
But first, promoting crosswalk safety with chickens. Yeah, you heard that right. How the Fenwick Island police are getting drivers' attention. All that and more as CoastTV News Today continues.
Why did the chicken cross the road? Well, according to the Fenwick police, it is to get people to hit the brakes for pedestrians. And that's no laughing matter. CoastTV News reporter Kevin Zappe shows us in this week's Coastal Connections how a funny costume is promoting safety.
The Fenwick Island Police Department does everything they can to keep the community safe.
Whether that's patrolling the streets in their car, watching over the beach, or wearing a chicken costume.
We at the Fenwick Island Police Department are serious about crosswalk safety.
To spread awareness to keeping your eyes on the road and pressing the crosswalk button, Fenwick Island Police Chief Michael Morrissey took it upon himself to hop in the chicken suit and cross the road.
We're kind of trying to use a little humor to get the message across that don't play chicken in the crosswalks, either as the driver of a vehicle or a pedestrian crossing.
With some cars still not following the crosswalk rules, the police department brought backup, a familiar police figure on TV. They walked across the street together in hopes of sending a message to stop for pedestrians, especially as the busy season gets underway.
Double and triple our crossings, so you're going to see more people out crossing the highway trying to enjoy our beaches and our bays.
Although Chase may be waving goodbye to all the cars in town, that's not the last you'll see of Chief Morrissey and the police department suiting up for duty.
Now, the Fenwick Island Police Department is planning to do this again, but next time they're going to be wearing the Grinch and Santa costumes for Christmas in July. I'm Kevin Zappe in Fenwick Island, Coast TV News.
Time is 5:17, and we're getting a live look at the Thursday morning scene in Ocean City. And Bob, we're starting to come out of a historic stretch of hot weather.
Boy, I tell you what, we went back to back, Matt, with triple-digit highs. These are not heat indices. These are actual temperatures in Georgetown the last 2 days. Tuesday, they hit 100, smashing the previous record of 97. And then yesterday, 101 was the high. I had a high of 100 in Millsboro, but in Georgetown, they eclipsed a previous record of 96 back in 1952. And before that, the last 100-degree day was July 21st in 2019. And look at this, our heat wave began this past weekend with lower 90s and then close to 100 Monday, and then it was the triple-digit heat Tuesday and Wednesday. But we're going to back off from the extreme heat. Now it's just hot as we go into today. And away from the coast, it's a heat advisory. Sussex County until 8 p.m. Also around Salisbury to Ocean Pines and Colburn and the Eastern Shore also under a heat advisory where we could see those feels-like temperatures about 105 to 108. We're looking at temperatures this morning once again like the last several mornings, mid to upper 70s, around 80 in Lewis and Rehoboth, and still very muggy. That's not going to change over the next several days in the late winds. So today's going to be another hot day, but I think we have some relief on the way as this dome of hot air is beginning to shrink. Now we're seeing these showers and storms beginning to flare up around the New York area as there is a front that's slowly sinking to the south. So it's kind of whittling away at this ridge of high pressure and this hot dome, which will eventually weaken. We'll see that front coming through and eventually some storms as soon as this afternoon. As Futurecast has us quickly warming up through the mid-80s, mid-morning, and by noon already low to mid-90s. That could be the high for the day at that time with 80s to around 90 in Lewis. Then this afternoon, a flare-up of showers and storms. Watch for very heavy rain and possibly some damaging winds too as those storms cool us back into the 80s. That'll be nice, but still very muggy through the evening hours as the storms go away. Otherwise, overnight, mostly cloudy skies, still muggy and warm Friday morning. However, an easterly wind kicks in behind a cold front, and tomorrow's going to be much better. Lots of clouds and temperatures barely getting up to 80 degrees, so a big change of pace there, and this will be refreshing, and maybe a few showers and storms possible tomorrow. But today, the threat is for damaging winds with a marginal chance of seeing severe weather, so keep an eye to the sky. Before the storms, though, feeling like perhaps 105, 106 this afternoon, early this afternoon, and then much better as we go into your Friday. But still on the muggy side, very humid to miserable the next few days, but at least it cools down Friday before we see those temperatures rising again into the weekend. And with the weekend, it won't be a washout. I think we're looking at mainly afternoon and evening showers and storms, maybe some heavy rain and gusty winds as we go through that time period. Paul Davis 7-day forecast, 91 today with the storms, and then Friday 80 with the storms, and then the weekend, not a washout. Some typical afternoon summer-like storms, 90 Saturday, 88 on Sunday, and then more storms into early next week with temperatures normal into the 80s and lower 90s. Looks like it dries out a bit Wednesday. And congratulations to George Rudgers from Lewis on winning a brand new umbrella from Paul Davis and Coast TV.
Thank you, Bob. And we're all trying to keep cool with these hot temperatures. A big part of keeping cool is a good air conditioner. And with many of our ACs cranking all day long, that also means cranking up the chance of having a problem. It kept HVAC repair crews busy, and we caught up with Ben Carter from Real HVAC, and he says they've been flooded with repair jobs.
It's crazy right now. Us and every other company in town is probably going just a little bit crazy trying to get out to you and make sure that you and your family are cool.
And Carter says regular maintenance and ensuring filters are clean will keep those systems from breaking down. This does bring us to our Coast TV poll. We want to know, do you change how you use electricity during heat waves?
And so far, 45% of voters say no change, 42% shift usage times, 11% use less AC, and 2% try but forget. I understand that one. And we do have a comment from Sheila. This says that I've learned many years ago to close the blinds, curtains, clean HVAC filters, use major appliances during off-peak hours, and keep HVAC at a medium level when not occupied. And if you haven't yet, you can still do so at coasttv.com or over on our mobile app. And up next on Coast TV News today, Independence Day across Delmarva. We'll tell you what communities have already announced details and how you can attend. Don't go anywhere. New in Millsboro, get ready for fireworks, food, and fun this weekend. The Greater Millsboro Chamber of Commerce is hosting its annual Stars and Stripes celebration on June 28th from 6 to 9:30 p.m. at the Millsboro Little League Fields. Organizers say the free event includes food trucks, vendors, a DJ, and fireworks to cap off the night. The rain date for this event is set for June 29th.
And Ocean City is announcing plans to celebrate the 4th of July. According to the town, there are 2 locations to view fireworks. Let's check those out. There's one at the Caroline Street Stage and uptown at Northside Park. The event started at 8 p.m. with music, and then the sky lights up at 9:30 p.m. People wanting to attend can take the beach bus.
Parking problems are on the agenda in Fenwick Island. Town leaders are looking at ways to let businesses share spots between their lots. The proposal would only allow businesses to share spots for employees. Businesses would enter a formal agreement and submit that request through the town. Some business owners say they think the idea would free up more parking for customers, but others say this should only be the first step.
Shared parking with employees has gotten some traction and is a help. But the town has got to go farther and figure out something to help with overflow customer parking.
And Fenwick Island's mayor says the proposal will be up for a second vote at this Friday's council meeting. She says the first vote passed through the council. And today might be a slightly more bearable beach day. I don't know.
I think we're going to still feel that heat, but Bob, I took a peek at some of those high temperatures you're projecting for the coast and not seeing a lot of 90s there.
No, I think they're backing off a little bit.
Still hot though.
It's still hot. But make sure you keep an eye to the sky as well. Dark skies this afternoon for some showers and storms. Fenwick Island, upper 80s for you. A little cooler in Ocean City, 85. And once again, definitely a chance of an afternoon shower or storm with that UV index extreme. And Lewis, we're looking at temperatures in the upper 80s. I think you could see a few storms, and Rehoboth as well. Rip current risk is low. Waves are pretty flat, around 1 to 2 feet. On the bay side, UV index is extreme too, with 1 foot waves, and temperatures in the lower 90s for Cambridge. I think we could probably paint in a lightning bolt for you too, and also a storm chance into Crisfield as we go into the afternoon hours. We do get a nice break from the heat as we go into Friday, but then it warms up again for the weekend with some storm chances. Typical summer-like pattern. I'll have much more on your forecast coming up in the next half hour.
After the break on Coast TV News today, federal decisions impact Delaware hospitals, the potential consequences of a proposed bill in Washington, according to a new report.
Also, Belhaven back on agenda. The project getting a public hearing today with mixed opinions from people living in Rehoboth Beach.
And overreach opposition, that's what some Delaware lawmakers say they are voicing after a marijuana bill makes its way to Meyer's desk. Coast TV News will be right back.
Now on Coast TV News.
Beachfront blueprint battle.
I think that'd be really awesome.
The momentum for the Belhaven Hotel project in Rehoboth Beach and the next step taking place today.
Council change coming. The new way people living in Selbyville will have representation in its local government.
Health of hospitals. We look at the economic impact and new challenges for hospitals in Delaware.
We're going from extremely hot to just hot today with a heat advisory, and feels like temperatures in the triple digits. A cooler Friday and then a warmer weekend with some showers and storms. Details coming up.
This is Coast TV News Today.
June 26, 2025. Good morning, everybody. I'm Matt Pensick. Good morning, Elisa.
Good morning, Matt. Good morning. I'm Elisa Weber. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we're about to hit 5:29 on this Thursday morning. For me, it did not have quite that muggy feel making my way in.
It did not. The air wasn't as thick as the past two mornings, but Bob said, don't worry, it's going to be hot and muggy later today. Such a good combo.
I know.
Yes.
It might not be muggy now, Bob, but
don't worry.
It's
later
coming back.
Yeah, it is, guys. And, you know, it's like one of those cases where the humidity drops a little bit, but then the temperature goes up. And that's what happened yesterday. That allowed us to get into the 100s with slightly lower humidity. But the muggies will be back today and out the door, 70s to low 80s. This is like a carbon copy of the last few mornings with dew points in the low to mid 70s, so still very muggy. We're not going to see much wind today. The extreme heat warnings have been now downgraded to heat advisories. Interior Sussex County. Along the coast, you're not seeing that, but it's interior areas, Salisbury, Liberty Town, Eden, heat advisory through this evening. And then for the eastern shore. But after today, we're done with those as it will cool down. As we're looking at quiet conditions right now, and that heat dome is beginning to weaken and collapse a little bit with the front to the north, some showers and storms over New York. That front will drop to the south, and that'll be the focus for some storms as soon as this afternoon as we quickly warm up to the 80s, and then by noon, low to mid 90s. That could be the high for the day, and then flaring up some afternoon showers and storms. Watch for heavy rain, maybe some damaging winds, but that will cool us off finally as we go into the evening hours, but still very muggy as temperatures could be as hot as 110 as we go into the evening hours. So take care in your car, warm and humid this morning. Afternoon showers and storms, and that car temperature could get up to about 125 to 130. So be extra cautious into the afternoon hours.
Thank you, Bob. In a last-minute push on marijuana zoning legislation, the House passed Senate Bill 75. The bill would limit the restrictions that counties can impose on marijuana businesses. It would also make it easier for medical dispensaries to sell recreationally. The bill sponsor said strict zoning in Sussex County specifically has been a big roadblock for these businesses, although people opposing the bill have called it government overreach.
The one-party rule, no matter what party it is, I think you get away from listening to local voices just by the nature of that happening.
You know, once the recreational cannabis stores are open, you're going to have less than 40 across the entire state. So it's just a little unreasonable what Sussex County has done, and again, they've made it illegal.
Senate Bill 75 now heads to Governor Meyer's desk for approval.
New this morning, the next step in the construction of a hotel right on the boardwalk in Rehoboth Beach. This afternoon, a public hearing taking place for the Belhaven Hotel project. It was earlier this month. The Planning Commission there voted 5-3 to move the hotel forward to this stage. Local reaction is mixed when it comes to how the four-story hotel will affect the boardwalk and beyond.
I think that would be really awesome because we need more hotels on the boardwalk. I think we only have a few of them.
I mean, the traffic is bad enough now, and the parking situation would be very bad. They wouldn't have no much parking or whatever. You know, I just don't think it would be okay.
Plans for the Belhaven call for 105 rooms, 78 garage spaces, and 29 parking spaces. Today's public hearing takes place at 1:30 at Rehoboth Beach's City Hall.
And that's not the only project that will be at that hearing in Rehoboth Beach. There's also a review of a subdivision off of Coastal Highway. It is called Oceanside Reserve. Here's the area developers are looking at. It is in the Rehoboth Beach Plaza in the Forgotten Mile. And if you've driven in that area, you know there are several empty storefronts. The subdivision calls for the nearly 8-acre lot to turn into a community for 31 single-family lots.
New this morning, there's a new structure to Shelbyville's government. Delaware Governor Matt Meyer signed into law these changes, dividing Shelbyville into 4 election districts with nearly equal population, with 1 representative from each district serving the town. Shelbyville municipal elections are held each year on the first Saturday in March.
Happening today, Lewis City leaders are reviewing a new way to manage residential parking. City Council will discuss a pilot program that would reserve parking spaces for people with mobility challenges. The draft plan outlines a mobility-based system, allowing residents to apply for designated spaces aimed at improving accessibility. Today's council meeting takes place this morning at 10 o'clock.
Also happening today, Bethany Beach taking a closer look at how people get around town. E-bikes and scooters are on the agenda at the Bicycle and Pedestrian Safety Committee meeting. There is an update from task teams. along with strategies for a safer bicycle and pedestrian shared paths.
The health of Delaware hospitals is on full display. The state's Healthcare Association released its Delaware Hospital Impact Report. It shows that hospitals are the largest private sector employer in the state. More than 10% of the state's total employment comes from hospitals, according to that report. They also add $9 billion in service. The report outlines emerging issues, which includes concerns over Medicaid cuts from the federal government.
Yeah, new overnight, those federal Medicaid cuts are center stage today in Washington, D.C. The White House is hosting what it calls the One Big Beautiful event this afternoon.
And that's how the president describes his sweeping bill he's trying to get through Congress. Amy Kiley shows us how Democrats have less pleasant names for that legislation and Republicans have a slim majority in the Senate.
President Donald Trump is back from the NATO summit and peddling his sweeping domestic policy bill today. He's set to push it at a White House event this afternoon. GOP leaders hope the Senate will pass the plan this week and send it back to the House.
It is going to help all boats rise, and we are so excited to get this thing over the line.
Democrats oppose the bill's cuts to Medicaid and other programs, but they can't block the legislation on their own. A few GOP objectors would tip the scales, and some Republicans say they have concerns. The Senate plan cuts Medicaid more deeply than the House version. A few Republicans say that worries them. The result is some unlikely allies who sound a bit similar.
Rural hospitals that are already struggling would be forced to shut down.
We can't close rural hospitals. That's my message.
GOP leaders are considering a rural hospital fund to reduce the blow. Another issue making for unusual bedfellows is the bill's trillions of dollars in tax breaks. Democrats say they don't want to lose money for things like health care and food stamps.
It's the red carpet for billionaires, and it's red tape for ordinary Americans.
Some Republicans say they're worried about the national debt.
I'm fiscally conservative no matter who is president, and I just can't support something that makes the deficit worse.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
We are now taking a live look at Washington, D.C. President Trump is back in Washington after participating in the NATO summit in the Netherlands. He is announcing that the U.S. and Iranian officials plan to meet next week. The meeting is expected to focus on how to move forward following U.S. airstrikes on Iran's nuclear enrichment sites. Trump said that he didn't know if an agreement would be signed at that meeting, saying he didn't think it was necessary.
They presented a report that wasn't finished.
Yes.
They didn't see it. All they can do is take a guess.
Do we know whether the uranium was there? Do we know whether the centrifuges were there? What is the state of those facilities?
And the president has continued to claim the airstrikes obliterated Iran's nuclear program, contrary to a U.S. intelligence assessment that the damage set the program back only several months.
Got a lot more news to get to. Don't go anywhere.
Coming up, outage impacts local library. We'll tell you how the issues could interrupt cooling on the coast.
Also, top picks in the NBA draft, what the 76ers in Washington did with their high selections last night in the first round.
And Delmarva local goes to Disney. We'll tell you how simply listening to the radio is making that trip happen. Stay with us on Coast TV News Today.
5:39, another mild, muggy start on this Thursday. Irish Ice Camp 78 in Lewis with hazy skies, and we're looking at temperatures once again starting out in the mid-70s to around 80 degrees and still very muggy with dew point temperatures above 70 degrees. And we're looking at clear skies now. Not as hot today, but it's still going to be muggy as we're seeing our heat dome beginning to shrink and shift to the south as a front to the north, eventually bringing some storms later today. But drink lots of water today, dress for summer, even though the extreme heat is now just regular heat. Cold beverage, watch for dark skies this afternoon with some storms, maybe some heavy rain, and possibly some damaging winds. Sunscreen and sunglasses a must. Call the Coast TV First Alert weather phone. I just updated it a few minutes ago. It's sponsored by Brockstead Mandalis Federico.
Delaware Governor Matt Meyer was in Rehoboth Beach celebrating a milestone for Sussex County Habitat for Humanity. The nonprofit dedicated their 200th home on Wednesday. Check out the scene here. You can see the celebration. Congrats to the newest homeowner, Ryan, and his family.
We'd like to say congratulations to a lucky Delmarva radio listener. We gave away a trip for 4 to Walt Disney World in Florida. The lucky winner was Diana Fogg from Rehoboth Beach.
Oh my God, it was so much fun. You guys are awesome. Coast Country rocks. I listen to you guys all the time. I'm Delmarva proud, and I've lived on the Eastern Shore my whole life, so this is like a dream come true for me.
And the contest aired on 102.5 WBOC and 93.5 The Beach, The Big 107.5 The Duck, and Coast Country. Congrats, Diana.
Delmarva Sports Network from the Wawa Studios.
What's going on, sports fans? Last night was draft night, where college athletes saw their dreams come true. Let's check in on our local teams. The 76ers went into the night with the 3rd overall pick, but there's been a ton of chatter. Will they take it? Will they trade it? Well, they did select 3rd overall, and it was VJ Edgecombe. After Ace Bailey was the potential 3rd overall pick, the Sixers did not want to take a chance on a player that declined a workout. They go with Edgecombe from Baylor. The wing is known for his defense and two-way potential entering the league. He led all Big 12 freshmen in scoring at 15 points per game, and all freshmen in steals with 68, 3.8 steals per 100 possessions. The Sixers are guard heavy going into next season. And the Wizards made a splash 2 nights ago with NBA trades, bringing in CJ McCollum, and they look to add to that with a 6th overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft. They go with Trey Johnson from Texas. The 6'6" guard averaged just under 20 points per game, which was a season high for NCAA freshmen. In addition, he earned SEC Freshman of the Year. His scoring ability and playmaking ability will make him a good fit for the Wizards. The Wizards also had the 18th overall pick, which they traded to the Utah Jazz. In return, they got the 21st pick, which they selected Illinois forward Will Riley, in addition to 2nd-round picks that we will see tonight. That over sports. Have a great day, everybody.
And coming up tonight on DSN at 7:30, we have another episode of Into the Trenches. Then at 8, it's the Berlin Bathtub Races at 10 p.m. Catch that episode of Into the Trenches if you missed it earlier. At 10:30, we have the final score. And on the DSN Plus app at 6, Crown Sports Center High School League, that's girls basketball, also Cape Henlopen High School League soccer, boys soccer that is. And at 6:15, action from the Maryland Supreme Basketball League.
And now here's a look at some of the top stories in the world of entertainment. Here's Douglas Hyde with today's Hollywood Minute.
We hunt. We fight. We kill.
Eden tells the true story of a world-weary group of outsiders who seek a better life on a remote island. But in true Lord of the Flies fashion, they wind up turning against each other with deadly results. Ron Howard directs a solid cast, which includes Ana de Armas, Sydney Sweeney, and Jude Law. Eden arrives in theaters in August.
Police believe the roof man may still be in the area.
What the? Oh my God!
Roof Man is also based on a true story. The crime comedy hits theaters in October and stars Channing Tatum as a guy who robs McDonald's restaurants by cutting holes in their roofs. He hides out in a Toys R Us store for months and along the way falls for a single mom played by Kirsten Dunst. It all begins to unravel as his criminal past catches up to him.
I herald his beginning. I herald your end. I herald Galactus.
The Silver Surfer is the bearer of bad news in the final trailer for The Fantastic Four: First Steps. The latest sneak peek shows the famous foursome coming together to face the cosmic invader Galactus. The superhero quartet steps into cinemas July 25th. In Hollywood, I'm Douglas Hyde.
If you're having a rough week, you can cheer up with a weekly dose of local good news from CoastTV with personal features, fun things to do each weekend, and more. You can sign up right now for free at coasttv.com and get your weekly dose of joy directly to your inbox on Friday.
Here's a live look into Ocean City on the Dryatech cam. A hazy, muggy, mild start, 79, and it's going to be another hot day. We're just backing off from the extreme heat. Watch for afternoon and evening showers and storms. A cooler Friday, then a weekend warm up, some more afternoon and evening storms possible. Not a washout. I'll have full forecast details coming up in 2 minutes. Stay tuned.
The time is now 5:47, and we are taking a live look outside of Ocean City this morning. And Bob, it's another day where I think it's better to be in the water than on land because it's going to be hot today. Hopefully you can go in the pool, the ocean. It's probably your best bet.
Yeah, being near a body of water is the key, Elisa, and having that water to drink too, to stay hydrated as well. It's the last day of the real hot weather for a little while today, with heat index values around 100 to 105, actual temperatures lower 90s, and watch for some some afternoon gusty storms, maybe some heavy rain and damaging winds. And then Friday, a backdoor cold front cools us off to about 80 degrees. That's going to feel spectacular, and maybe a spotty storm. Air quality is still not that great. We're in the moderate range now across Delmarva, so a lot of that air is still not moving. So if you do suffer from health problems, it's best just to stay inside for that, and plus the heat as well, as we do have a heat advisory for Sussex County from Bridgeville to Ellendale, Millsboro, and Gumboro. That's excluding the coast because I think you'll be just a little cooler there. Heat advisory as well, Salisbury, Liberty Town, and Pittsville through about 7 p.m. and the Eastern Shore also under this heat advisory. Then we're done with this for a while after today, thankfully, as we're seeing temperatures starting out in the 70s to around 80 in Rehoboth. And once again, with dew point temperatures above 70, it is that air you can wear. So a little relief, not much in the way of wind. As we're looking at mainly clear skies right now, we are seeing some showers and storms in the New York area into southern New England, as this is along a stationary front, which will eventually become a backdoor cold front and then swing through tonight, cooling us off Friday. And that's beginning to shrink this heat dome, and this ridge is beginning to just kind of weaken and fizzle out. So that's good for us. That means the heat will tend to decrease with time, but it's still one more hot day. Here's 7:30 on Futurecast, low 80s and then mid 80s by 9. And then by noon, it's hot with lower 90s inland areas with 80s to around 90 in Lewis, 92 in Georgetown, maybe 93 in Delmar. Then we'll fire up some storms into the afternoon hours, and some of those will have heavy rain and gusty winds. So the plus is it's going to cool us off, but maybe some damaging winds with some of these storms into the afternoon and evening hours as we do finally cool down. This is a good 10 degrees cooler this evening than yesterday evening with 70s and low 80s. We'll take that. And then the flows start to come in out of the east-northeast tonight as that front drops in, and we'll see clouds increasing overnight with mainly cloudy skies, still mild and muggy to start the day. But then as we go through the day with the cloud cover and that easterly flow, temperatures not moving much into the upper 70s, maybe 80 away from the coast. So refreshing change, and maybe a spotty shower or a thunderstorm as it stays kind of mild and muggy into the evening. Today there is a marginal or low chance of severe weather. The main threat will be some damaging winds. So make sure you secure those outdoor items just in case. Ahead of the storms, feeling like 100 to 105 away from the coast today, but you can see how conditions improve drastically as we head into your Friday. And it's still muggy. We're not going to see things really drying out, but at least the temperature drops as we go into Friday. And then they do bump up into the weekend, but very humid to miserable really the next several days. As we go into the weekend, it's not going to be a washout, but we're going to see a warm front lifting to the north with some afternoon and evening showers and storms. Could have some heavy rain and gusty winds. So keep that in mind for your weekend plans. Paul Davis 7-day forecast, 91 today with afternoon showers and storms. Then Friday, much better. High of 80 with some storms. And then into the weekend, typical summer-like weekend, 90 Saturday with some afternoon and evening storms. The same for Sunday, 88. And then upper 80s, lower 90s early next week with a few more storms. And then dry Wednesday, 88. And as of now, it looks like it's dry and warm to hot for the 4th of July.
Thank you, Bob. Sticking with weather over in Lewis, the city has been dealing with reoccurring power outages this week. One location hit the Lewis Public Library. They, of course, use the internet to keep track of incoming and outgoing rentals, but the library also uses services as an unofficial cooling center for the city. Officials there say they got lucky with the timing of yesterday's outages.
We lost power total of 3 times like the rest of Lewis. So if it had happened earlier in the day, we definitely would have had to close and have people leave. We were able, because it was so close to closing time, it wasn't so bad, but it got very, very warm.
And the president of Lewis BPW Board, Tom Panetta, says this is a regional problem with the grid provider for the area. People should try to conserve electricity.
Happening today in Dorchester County, a new health department building officially opens its doors. Employees made the move from the Cedar Street location in Cambridge to just up the road to Ray Street. That was back in April, and they've been working there ever since. However, today is the ribbon cutting ceremony, and that takes place from noon to 1.
Home buyers may soon be able to use cryptocurrency assets to strengthen their mortgage application. That's the idea from the head of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, which oversees mortgage buying giants Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Bill Pulte is a social media post reference that the Trump administration's plan to make the U.S. the crypto capital of the world. He said he's ordered Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to prepare to count crypto as an asset.
Southwest Airlines ready to make an effort in drawing high-spending travelers away from competitors. CEO Bob Jordan listed a few ideas in an interview with CNBC at an airport industry conference. Those include airport lounges, adding more premium seating, and longer-haul international flights.
The time is now 5:53, and we're going to check in with our coastal pet of the day.
And today's coastal pet of the day this hour, two pets cooling down this week. Don't blame them. On your screen, check out Rocket and Jessie. As you can see, they took to the pool to cool down as Delmarva experienced the first heat wave of the summer. And these two were submitted to us by Sue and Milton.
And we want to see more of your pets on Delmarva. Send us photos and tell us what makes them so special. You can take a look at your screen.
In the top center, you have that QR code. Scan that to get your friends to Coast TV News. And then watch weekdays from 5 to 7 a.m. to see all the pets we feature.
The time is now 5:56, and we are going to take another look at your forecast before you head out the door.
Yeah, Bob, at least we don't have those red first alert conditions today.
Yeah, no more code reds, no excessive heat, just normal summer-like heat, guys, as we're looking into the next 24 hours or so, as we're looking at temperatures very mild this morning into the 70s. We are back into the low 90s this afternoon, into early afternoon. Then I think we're going to see some showers and storms flaring up, some with very heavy rain and maybe some damaging winds. So make sure you keep an eye to the sky for that. Before the storms, though, it could be feeling like 105 to close to 110. Inland areas maybe as hot as 109 in Delmar. Then I think temperatures do cool down a little bit with the afternoon storms. Here's your Paul Davis 10-day forecast. Much more pleasant Friday, 80 degrees, an isolated shower or storm. Then the heat is back for the weekend, a typical summer weekend with 90 Saturday, 88 Sunday, mainly afternoon storms. That continues into early next week with upper 80s and lower 90s. Then we're heading into the 4th of July holiday weekend, fingers crossed, and I think we're looking good. Upper 80s to around 90 on the 4th. Dry conditions, and hopefully that lingers into the weekend, but that's still several days out, but we'll continue to fine-tune that forecast.
All right, thank you, Bob. And coming up in our next hour, clash on county control. The legislation in Delaware limiting local government regulations on recreational marijuana moves closer to becoming law. That and more when we continue with Coast TV News Today.